What's going on, guys? Welcome to Budget RC. Today we're taking a look at the Subotech BG1520. It's a 1/18 scale rock racer style vehicle for under 60 bucks. Hey guys, today we're looking at this 1/18 scale four-wheel drive vehicle from Subotech that Banggood sent to me to review. First of all, let's take a quick look at the box. You can see it's a full color box. You can see here that it comes in purple as well as in the red one that they sent to me. Other than that, not much to say about the box. Subotech calls this a 1/14 scale vehicle. In reality, it's actually a 1/18 scale four-wheel drive RC. It utilizes a 380 sized brushed motor. It has an integrated receiver, speed control, and servo controller, and it has a small micro-sized 5-wire servo. The battery is this little guy here. This uses 14 500 sized lithium-ion cells. They're exactly the same size as AA batteries. This battery pack here is rated for 650 milliamps. The vehicle is four-wheel drive and it utilizes open differentials in the front and in the rear. In the front, it has a conventional style independent suspension. The rear also has open differentials but utilizes a solid rear axle with a 4-link suspension system. It has oil-filled shocks front and rear, and get this, it has an all-metal drivetrain. That includes the drive shafts, the differentials, the rear axles, and in the front it includes the differential, the outdrives, and it actually has metal CV axles up front. That's a pretty robust drivetrain for such an inexpensive vehicle. So the vehicle utilizes a body with a nice looking red, black, and gray color scheme. It's got nice looking graphics, and it has a molded in interior as part of the body. And you can look and see that it even has separate driver heads with a nice looking red helmet. The body covers a tube style frame, and it comes with 1.9-inch beadlock wheels with a somewhat firm compound rubber tire. The controller is your standard run-of-the-mill 2.4 gigahertz controller. It's pretty basic, but it does have steering and throttle trims, and it seems to do the job. I've got this controller on a couple of vehicles, and for a basic controller, I have no complaints. So now we can tilt the body back and take a look at the electronics underneath. Down here on the left is our 380 sized brushed motor with a heat sink on it to help keep it cool. This is our integrated speed control and receiver, and directly beneath that is the micro-sized servo. This does utilize a 5-wire servo, so if you have any problems at all with the electronics, you will have to replace all of them. Back here is the battery tray. Now it's got a pretty large battery tray, and it comes with a really small battery, but you can see here that it's got a lot of these ribs in here. So if we want to run a larger battery, we're going to have to trim those for clearance. And now with the body off, you can see a little bit better view of the shocks. They do advertise these as oil filled, but if there's any oil in them at all, it's not very much. You can see that this is really an underdamped system. So now let's talk about the pros and the cons. I'm going to start with the cons first. Let's address the elephant in the room first. As far as I can tell, this doesn't just look like a Yeti Jr. This appears to be a clone of a Yeti Jr. All of the parts underneath, even the details in the plastics, seem to be exactly the same as the Yeti Jr. If that's something that concerns you, then this probably won't be the vehicle for you. Other cons include potentially questionable reliability. Generally on these less expensive vehicles, they come with pretty unreliable electronics. It really ends up being a gamble whether it holds up for a few days or a few years. And because it's the integrated receiver, speed control, and 5-wire servo, if any of it goes bad, you really have to replace it all. Replacing all of those electronics can get expensive depending on what you use. But if you invest in a transmitter that can control multiple vehicles, it becomes much more affordable to do these type of upgrades because all you need to buy is the receiver. Additionally, you would need your speed control and your motor, but those are things that you would end up replacing anyway. Now let's look at the pros. First and foremost, this has an all-metal drivetrain and it looks really robust. It's got metal CV axles up front and they're a good sized diameter. In the rear, it's got metal axles, and it's even got metal drive shaft here and the metal shaft coming directly from the motor. This looks like it should be really robust and can probably handle some good brushless power. Additionally, I think it looks great. Of course, I'm a big fan of how the Yeti looks. Plus, like it or not, because this appears to be a Yeti Jr clone, that means parts availability might be a whole lot better than for most of these kinds of vehicles if those Yeti Jr parts can fit. It also gives you a path for upgradability with some of the aftermarket Yeti Jr parts, again assuming that they fit. So we had great weather the other day, so the kids and I took this out and had some fun with it, and I wanted to give you my driving impressions. My first reaction when I drove this vehicle was that I was a little bit underwhelmed with both the speed and the power that this vehicle has. This has a 380 sized brushed motor, which should be pretty powerful. My guess is that this little tiny battery pack just can't deliver enough current to really give it the kind of power that this vehicle seems like it should have. I'm looking forward to trying a different battery to see how it acts with that. In terms of steering, I would say that that's adequate. The steering radius seems like it's a little bit wide. When you turn the controller, it also seems like the steering is a little bit notchy. But the servo speed is a whole lot faster than I expected, and that was a nice surprise. Lastly is the suspension. I did find this vehicle to be a little bit bouncy, and that's not really uncommon with smaller, lighter weight vehicles like this. As they get lighter, they generally tend to be more bouncy. This seemed to be even worse than usual though, because I think these shocks are just way underdamped. The springs are very stiff, and if there's any shock oil in them at all, it's a very thin oil. Overall, I got bored with it kind of quickly. Between being bouncy and being slow, it just didn't keep me entertained for long. When my kids drove it, it was a different story. They both seemed to really enjoy it. My son even commented that he thought it was fairly fast for the size. So based on that, who would I recommend this for? I would say that this is a good vehicle if you have a smaller environment to use it in. Because it's smaller and a little bit slower, if you have a small environment, it could be a very good vehicle in that situation. It can seem fast if you make sure it stays in a confined area. If you bring it into a big wide open space like I was using it, then maybe not so much. But in a small backyard, I could see this vehicle being fun. Secondly, I think it could be a good vehicle for kids. Quite often, these small vehicles end up being ridiculously fast, which makes them hard to control, and that's not necessarily what you want for kids. This vehicle is a little bit slower, a little bit more controllable, and I think that's why the kids had fun with it. On the other hand, because we're not sure about the reliability of the electronics in this vehicle, you could end up getting your kid something that doesn't hold up or doesn't last long. If you're willing to do some upgrades, or if this isn't the only vehicle that your kids have, that may not be such a bad idea. Lastly, I think this could be a great vehicle as an upgrade platform. Like I said, it looks like it's got a really robust metal drivetrain, so I think this vehicle should hold up really well to brushless power. And with the right brushless combination, it would really make this vehicle come alive, especially if you take it that extra step, upgrade the shocks and springs, and maybe get some stickier tires on here. Now, because you would need motor, ESC, servo, and controller, that could get a little bit pricey. But because this thing comes in at under 60 bucks, even if you have to throw that much again at it in terms of electronics costs, you're still looking at a pretty affordable platform that could end up being a lot of fun. It's just up to you to decide whether or not you want to go with something that appears to be a complete copy of another vehicle. Lastly, if you're going to keep it stock, I still think a better battery is going to help with performance. If you do plan on going with a brushless upgrade, a different battery would be an absolute necessity. I have some smaller LiPos, and I'm looking forward to trying them out in here. Well guys, that was it on this one. Like I said, overall, I really like this vehicle. I am kind of struggling with it being a copy of the Yeti Jr, but I already have the vehicle. So far, it's been fun to use other than being a little bit underpowered. And I may try some inexpensive electronics in it. Definitely want to try a battery, and I'm going to see what I can do with the shocks to improve them. If you guys have any suggestions or if you have any feedback about this vehicle, go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. Thanks a lot.